Ah, the government shutdown and SNAP benefit recipients. Ah, let's have a slight chat about it. Oh boy, let's jump into it. As of this recording, we we're in the middle of a massive government shutdown. And as of this recording, it's like the second longest in US government history. And a lot of services and jobs have been affected by it. Federal workers have been furloughed, and some just working and not getting a paycheck because they're essential employees and what have you, though. But there are a lot of benefits that's going to affect Americans rather. Medicaid, which has always been a hot issue in government, especially state government. But the biggest conversation piece has been SNAP benefits. Yeah, SNAP benefits. And it's been said that, let me see, it's been said that over 40 million people will be affected by the government shutdown. And I've heard different numbers and dates that if the government shutdown isn't resolved by October 27th, then those who receive SNAP benefits, SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program benefits, or what we used to say back in the day, food stamps, well, at least for the month of November, nobody you won't receive your benefits. Oh, mm, mm, mm. Well, there's a lot of conversation that's going on. Of course, you're hearing from people who this is really hitting hard. You have two-parent homes with their child or children, and they're barely making ends meet, and they're gonna miss their benefits. And then you got those who are single parents, and of course, they said they're gonna need food, and they're struggling. And then, from what I've at least saw on the news today, as of this recording, uh, food banks are feeling the strain. Lack of donations and other situations. So these are some tough times ahead, tough days ahead. But what bothers me about this whole situation is when the talk of the SNAP benefits being affected, those who are not receiving SNAP benefits, not all, but some, most, I just say most, then they start pointing their accusatory fingers at those who affected by the SNAP downfall or shortfall. You hear the regular saying, the old sayings, well, that's why you need to go get a job. Well, guess what? I don't know how it is in other states, but I'm in Alabama, and I know in Alabama, if you're an able-bodied working person, then you are qualified for SNAP assistance. If you're just not working for no apparent reason, you will not receive SNAP benefits. Now, if you're on disability or you are older than the work age here, well, guess what? Then you'll get them. But if you're within that age group, if you're able to work, but you're not working, you won't receive it though. So it's not a case of people being lazy though. You know, people work, but they need that supplemental income, that supplemental assistance to help them get food. Now, you have people saying, well, if you can't take care of children, don't have children. Well, you can't control that, you know. And it's heartbreaking to see people kind of scoff at those who gonna lose their benefits, you know. Now, in a moment of transparency, I have been hungry before. I know what it means to get up and look into the refrigerator and nothing's there. Like old Mother Hubbard went to her cupboard to find her dog a bone. Yeah, and just nothing was there. That's a bad feeling. And it's even worse when you don't know where your next meal is going to come from. And then I've been in that situation where I had custody of one of my nephews and we were without food. And that's not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling when you don't have food and you're by yourself. That's bad enough. But when you have a family to support, it is much worse. And a lot of people, you got people who gonna bum off the system. It's no denying about that. But then you have people who legitimately need this assistance. People who work their fingers to the bone and they live literally paycheck to paycheck. And they just have enough to pay their bills and get medicine and what have you. And then, so a little help with the food goes a long way. But these people that scoff at them, saying, well, you should get a job or you shouldn't be taking advantage of the system or spending my tax dollars. That's just, I don't know. That's just bad talk right there. That type of talk is, it gives me the icks. What happened to the compassion? What happened to the love? I don't get it. I don't get it. And I don't mean to put politics in this, but I got to. I understand it from a certain demographic, political demographic in this country, to have a kind of heartless take on this. But those who I would thought had more compassion for those who's going to be affected, they could be just as cruel and ugly and mean about it. I don't know. It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. There are people on my social media connections. One person in particular. This person tend to look down on those who receive some type of government assistance. And they feel that they had their life together. And Lord, forgive me for saying this, but I just hope this person face hard times. I do. Lord, forgive me for saying this, though. But I don't know how you could just be so mean and cruel and heartless, you know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe, like I said, I know how it feels to be without, though. But, you know, only thing I'm going to say is this, and I'm going to wrap this up. If you're being affected by this, see if there's any food banks out there or even family members or whoever that's going to help you. And if you're in a position to help somebody, well, donate, help them, bring them a meal. Because these some tough times ahead, okay? And we need each other, okay? Now is not the time to judge people, to tell them that they should have did this or they should have did that. They shouldn't depend on the government to help them out. Now is not the time for that, especially if you dealing with the elderly or the sick and shut in or children. Now is not the time for that. Soften your heart, open your heart. We all in this together, okay? Thank you for your time. Until next time, take care.